All right, so we've already done a couple of quick solar hacks, basically, right? So it's about time that we move on to something that can really do a good job cooking. Not that the hacks can't actually cook, because sometimes you just want something quick. And the truth is, you can cook a huge number of things on a relatively low temperature. But sometimes you do want a higher temperature so that you could do more serious cooking. So we want something that could possibly handle 300, 400, 500 degrees on a consistent basis. Always depending on like the conditions and stuff like that. If it's a windy day, it's going to cool your solar oven off a lot. And so there's always going to be variables like that are going to make it some days better than others. But definitely when there's a lot of sunlight, you want to be able to take advantage of that. Like, why not? That's the whole point of solar. So we're going to try to make a real solar oven with one twist. And basically I wanted to show you how to make a solar oven. Then I realized there are actually lots of videos and instructions online for how to make a basic solar oven. The type of solar oven that's more practical for our purposes is actually there isn't a lot of instruction online at all. I found like one set of instructions and I felt like it wasn't really complete. So what I want to do today is to actually dive right into making an actual collapsible solar oven. And the thing is, it's exactly the same as as just a regular box oven that you see lots of instructions for online, but with a simple twist, you can turn it into a collapsible system so that you could fold down the whole thing and then have it all in a small box that's about that thick that you can easily just stow anywhere. And space is such a premium. And when I'm camping in a truck with, the cabin is like 7 by 7, and I'm sort of lucky enough that I have a double cab, so I can put a lot of stuff in the back seat. But there just really isn't a lot of space to be carrying around a big box filled with nothing, right? For just limited use on days that happen to be sunny and I happen to be in the right place to be able to take advantage of that situation. So for something like that, I want something that's small, that packs really small. So we're going to just go right into the collapsible oven, and that'll be more practical for your use. And I'll sort of point out sort of like the divergent points, I hope to anyway, of where if you wanted to make a more sturdy kind of system, this is where you might just stop and not make this certain cut and just keep it all intact. But the thing is, if you want to make a sturdy system, there's plenty of systems online already where you could learn how to do that. So diving right in, a lot of these things are going to be common between all the systems. You're going to need two boxes, and one has to fit, is going to be a smaller box that fits inside the larger box. All right, I'll tell you more about these boxes. You'll also need some extra cardboard. I just have like an extra box that's broken down, and that's going to be, we're going to make a lid, and depending on the size of your boxes, you might need to make some bottoms as well. Okay, and I haven't decided exactly in my case, but I'm going to try to do it as simple as possible so I can make the video. Obviously, you're going to need some aluminum foil. You're going to need, this is going to be our top. So this is a turkey oven bag. You want the turkey size, the biggest size I got, I think it's something like 22 by 24. And that's going to be saved for the last step, and so it doesn't blow away. I'm going to set it aside. And just other things you need, probably some spray glue is a good idea. And that's the easiest way. You could also use like, just Elmer's type and squeeze bottle. Probably a straight edge and some type of box knife and or scissors, which could be handy too, and some tape. So all these things could be handy. So let me tell you about the boxes that you'll need. There's very specific sizes of boxes, although you actually can get away with larger boxes, taller boxes, and cut them down to size. If you're willing to do a little bit of extra cutting and stuff, if you can figure that out. Once you've made one or two, then you kind of get an idea, oh yeah, I could have shortcutted that, another way. But, in the beginning, it's nice to have a little recipe. So, you want your internal one. Okay, well, let's first start with the outside dimension. You'll notice that it's kind of have a big top surface area, but it's not very tall. So it's less tall than it is sort of wide. What we want is a big surface area for the sun to collect the sunlight. we want it to be not so tall because that gives us less wall area to lose heat. So the sun's going to come into here, but it's going to want to lose heat out of here. Not so much out of the bottom, but the bottom is important too. But it's mostly going to want to lose heat around the sides. So what we want is to be not very tall here, a big area on top, and inside, in order to achieve that insulation around the edges, we want our inside box to be, you know, 1 inch to 2 inches around, all the way around. So, you know, 1 inch to 2 inches, so it's like 2 to 4 inches larger in every dimension across this way, as well as approximately 1 inch deeper than this box. You can see if it comes to the top, but it actually goes down, and there's like an extra, it's about an extra inch right there. So we're going to prop this up off the bottom, and this extra airspace is going to give us extra insulation. So air is a very good insulator. It's much harder for the molecules to transfer across air than it is just like in a direct path with connected materials. So that's the basic idea. If you just, all you did is you take that idea and you line the insides with foil, and then take another piece of cardboard and then make a reflector out of it. That's your basic idea. Solar oven, and of course cut the top of the box and you know, cover the top with your clear material. You have a solar oven. You're just going to trap some sunlight in here, foil line, a thing on top. That's all we really need to accomplish. In order to get there, we're going to do a couple little things, which is going to be basically this. I'm sort of walking you through the simple idea so you can conceptualize a basic solar oven if you haven't already thought about it. It's going to be this, and then these sides are going to be folded down so that we have an open rectangle right there. And then this smaller box is going to fit down inside that rectangle. And there's going to be a couple things to be done with this. And then we're going to take the third piece and then over the whole thing with this now inside. Now there's now going to be, you're going to have a hole there, and then we're going to put a lid over there that's going to contain our turkey bag, our clear panel. So in order to accomplish that, okay, so if you basically do that and find any way, there's a number of different ways that you could do this deal by, like, say, like folding down the sides of the boxes, or you could fold them down in sort of a strategic way by actually making another air gap in here and folding them down like this, if you can understand what I'm talking about, and this side like this, that way. So in other words, making 2 folds into here, fold it once, then fold it again, and scrunch that down in there. That's another way to do that. And I think that's the way that we're going to do it in this case too. Some of this is I'm going to sort of make it up as I go along, with a general idea of how the collapsible box system works. So the way that that's going to work, we're actually going to cut off the bottom of this and use this bottom as a lid. So, or actually will be the false bottom, and then these sides will be sort of like freestanding, and then they're going to set down inside that the bottom lid basically. And the same thing with this one. We're going to cut off the bottom of this one, make a lid, and then set the sides down inside there, and then the whole thing, each one of these can be like folded back into place. So they'll all be kind of like, it'll be like a broken down box, and you can imagine if we, let's undo this. So you can imagine what would happen if we took off this, and then it would just be left, all we'd have was just the sides of the box, and then we could collapse them down just the same way that like a broken down box would be like this. We'd have a system that was kind of like this, and then once it's all broken down, in fact it won't be exactly like this, but we're going to accordion it by pushing in the sides that way, and like you're not seeing, you know, push it in the sides that way, so it will be sort of accordion shaped, and then it will all be able to fit neatly into the bottom piece. Okay, I don't know if that makes any sense at all when I just explained it that way, but as we go through the steps, you definitely will get a better idea. So first thing, oh, and also about the box dimensions. It's got to be, you want them to be short, but also they need to be able to fit the pots that you're going to put in there. So if I were to use this pot, which is a really good choice because it's all black and it's anodized aluminum, so it heats up really quickly and transfers that to your food. So it's a really good choice for a solar oven, and that's about the right height. This pot here, which I was always considering to use, this one, it's definitely tall enough for this one. I'm actually demonstrating with the wrong box. You need to check your inside box to see is that the right height. Well, it kind of is barely the right height, but if I were to cut off the bottom of the box, it would no longer be the right height. So I was thinking about it, and what I realized is that actually what I'm mostly going to use for the solar oven, I think, is a set of pie pans that I used. And depending on where you are in the video series, you may or may not have seen me use this yet. But this is a really good baking thing, and it has a reasonable good bit of height. It's almost as tall as just this portion, and it's definitely, you could probably stick about 4 potatoes in there. So I'm gonna use that for that. In fact, because I just started using this, and I think it's gonna have like a bunch of uses. I could probably even fit 5 potatoes in there. So one of the reasons I really want to get this solar oven system really going is I want to start baking some potatoes. You know, it's a good thing to have. So I'm going to make sure that your bottoms are all taped up if they're not already, and I'm going to do some prep work and just go ahead and do a couple cuts without running up all my video time. And my memory, and my phone memory, my camera. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of prep work, and then I'll meet you back after I've cut a couple things up, and I can basically show you what I did. All right. All right. So I've now got the bottoms cut off of these, so you can see it's really not that hard to understand. It's probably more hard for me to hold the boxes up so I can show you something that's just really so simple. And all I did to do that is I just used my straight edge, and I just lined it up exactly right on there, and used a box knife and just cut down the edge of that and cut off exactly an inch. It was just the easiest way to do it. I already have the, I don't even know if this is exactly an inch. It's probably not. Whatever this is, that's how much I cut off. Just made it easy. So the next bit of, oh, and by the way, also made sure to tape up all the seams on all sides. Very important. And now we're to the bit of instructions that were totally unclear to me. What you're supposed to do is to be able to fit this part into the bottom, so that this becomes the bottom, and we should just be able to fit this right in there. Yes, no. It just said in the instructions, just fit it down in there. Well, it's not just fitting down in there for me. It's not really working. So after playing around with this one, I got it to work, and so that it does actually fit there. And it was the trick that you need to do, and maybe you could figure it out how to do it without doing this, but it just seemed to be that if I just put a little slit right there, and or sometimes you need to make a slightly larger slit like that, so instead of just one cut, make another cut right beside it and cut out, just a little bit, like a millimeter's worth, little strip, and that'll enable the sides to kind of tuck down in there. So then now I'm able, with a little bit, it's not the easiest thing, but I can kind of do this, and then by shoving it down, I can kind of get those sides to kind of do what they're supposed to do. And I mean, it's good if it's tight. If it's a little bit difficult, that's not a bad thing. So now this part is in there, and then the same thing will happen with this one. And so I'll just do the same thing with this. Just cut out a little bit like that. Pull that out. It seems like I didn't have to do it everywhere the same way. Maybe cut a little there. This one I'll do a double. And now just make sure it fits in there. Definitely the first side is easy. second side, it's a little more of a challenge. So we're not really tucking. There. Got that. And there. So that last side is in there now. Okay. So that's basically the setup for every time. Maybe you can figure out ways to make it simpler, cutting off a little more or something like that. Or maybe just the extra work is worth it for making a really tight seal in there. See, it's a little bit, it's not quite in there right over here. Maybe it doesn't matter. And in fact, now that I think about it, maybe part of the process of actually tucking the sides in, maybe that'll solve the trick too. So maybe when we get to the next step, maybe you can like backtrack and see. So anyway, this one's going to go into here, but it's still a little small. So what we need is a little bit of spacer to raise it up off of there. So this can be easily accomplished. Just going to cut off a strip from my spare. Nothing scientific here. I'm just going to cut off, well, obviously I got to cut off, what's the distance here? I got to figure out the difference between the height. Back here. And so what's the difference in height right here? So that difference right there, looks like it's about the same as this, huh? Look at that. It just happens to be the same as the width of this. So I'm just going to cut out that exact width from, I don't know where I started, so let's try that. Score it a couple more times. It's not neat, but it doesn't need to be. It's just a spacer. And let's see what would be the best way to do this. Let me just cut it in half. And let's try one of these. Just make it. I'm going to do one of these things where you fit one into the other and make a little X. Might need to do a couple of these. Another way I might do it is just get a long enough strip and then make kind of a circle. But let's just do that. A little X like that. And okay, so I'm discovering an issue. This thing kind of wants to fall apart. So maybe everything you can do to make it tight is good, and there might need to be ways to like hold it in place too. So I'm just stick it in the bottom. I'm not going to tape it because it's also going to be collapsible, right? So now we got that system in place, and now what we need to do is find a way to tuck that in there in the appropriate. Let's make this one small for now. We're going to make these flaps go in there, and we're going to tuck them down in, but fold them in such a way that they'll support this one in there. Okay, so we'll figure out how much we need. Just what I'm going to do is going to make them, put it right in the middle off the side, and this will allow me to kind of mark off where I need to fold it. So I'm going to fold it right there. Just make a mark with that. There. And actually I'm going to need to fold before I get to that little mark. Same thing over here. I'm seeing where that is. Right up there. So I'm being kind of approximate. It's going to take a little bit of adjustment, I'm sure. Non-scientifically. Okay. Which side did I want to start with? I really do need more support down there. I'm not going to worry about it right now. It's not the most critical step. We first really want to make sure that we got these in there. So, how do I want to do this? Let's do these sides first. This way, let's go with the easiest way to do this. Here we go. This. Fold. Let's see if I can just fold that over about the right distance. Just want to make a break there. Okay. Let's try it this way. I'm going to mark it on the other side instead. I'm going to do it this way. Make sure it's even. Nope, I better make a mark on the other side too. I'm sort of eyeballing it. Just need any way that I can find a way to make this fold. I might need to cut it in order to make that fold because this cardboard is really tough. But there it goes. It's a little crooked. But probably going to need adjustment anyway. Let's do that. Oh, and you might have noticed that we have not done the accordion yet. We don't need to do that yet. So there's one, so that's going to go in there like that. Same thing with the other side. Eyeballing it again. That's not bad, but I'm not sure that it's in the right place. Easy way to check. Let's put this one in there. Okay, so we're missing a lot. So this is folded over way too close. Probably would have been better to actually score it. And by that I mean, if we'd actually done this in exactly the place we need it, then it would probably have folded over very neatly in the right place. Yeah, still not sure that's not. Better, but that's not bad. Let's just try to make it just a little bit tighter. This time I'm actually going to do what I suggested doing. I'm just actually going to go up here and score it. It's going to make a cut that's going to encourage it to bend. Now it actually encourages it to bend the other way, but you can work it this way. So it actually broke right there. I'll just tape that up. A little bit more on this side than that side. But that's basically tight enough. It'll be a lot tighter once we get these sides down. Okay, so with my experience in needing to score it, let's do it Still wondering. Yeah, let's do it this way. So basically that. Okay, it's basically that. Okay, now in this case it's got to fit down into there, so we're going to have to cut down, we have to cut down the whole thing. So cut everything up to that point. This corner. Yeah, that was a lot easier. So much easier. Okay. Same with the other side. It's like I made it really uneven. Hard though. I didn't score it a couple times, did I? That's okay. Made it a little easier to bend. Okay. Cut that side too. Leave a little bit on there because there's a small gap right there. Okay, so let's move back out here. There. So now we got it. Now we just got to do the inside sort of the same way, but in this case, we don't really need to do all of it. Just plug those in there. And we lost the support. So I'll make a couple more supports a little easier. Alright, so I would say that's pretty good. There's still some strange little gaps here. So maybe there's things that could be overcome in a future version. So yeah, this optionally, you can do some more with the inside. Okay, so this is actually falling apart. This wasn't a good way to do it. It might be better, but it does lay flat, because you can take it apart and do that. So parts of this are a good idea. Maybe like a longer one with a couple more slats on it would be a good idea. For now, I'm not going to fuss on it. Okay, so at this point, we need to make it collapsible. To do that, we also need to line it all with foil. But that's the easy part, and that's all you can figure out. Making it collapsible is just a simple deal. All we're going to do is find the midpoint of this and fold it. So rather than just guessing with a piece of paper, I would just say just fold it in half. But in this case, I need to be a little bit exact because it's not as easy to recover if you goof up. So I'm just going to do the same deal with scoring a little bit. Just give me something to work with. See how well I did. Pretty good. Matched up pretty good. 4.5 again. I'm going 4.5 because this is 9 across. And it might be that even if it's not perfect, it'll still work. It'll just be a little bit. It'll just be a little bit off. But it won't affect the final product. It will affect how it folds up for you. Alright, there we go. So, that'll be flat, fit in. It's going to fit in here. It's still not really fitting in here. Yeah, why doesn't it fit in there? That's a little bit weird. Okay, so I could cut off. Which end do I want to cut off? I'm going to want to cut. Is that just a coincidence? I think that's a coincidence because this dimension has nothing to do with that. It's just a coincidence that it almost fits. So we want to make it just a little bit shorter than that. Okay, so but you get it. We want to fit that in there. I'm not even going to bother showing you that. I'll do it and then fix it in the end. But you want it to fit in that little box. And the same with this one too. Do that. So seems a little redundant, but I do want to get it to the point where I can show you it all kind of fitting together. No, this didn't match up. That did not match up. That was a little uneven. So I guess you'll get to see what happens if it's a little uneven. It's actually corrugated, so I can actually put my thumbs in there and just go like that. Again, what a funny coincidence. Is it a coincidence? Is there some reason it should be like this? It's obviously long enough, but the fact that it's tall enough, because this is the top, this makes no sense that that would be so close. Alright. The fact that I was a little bit off is affecting my ability to get in the box, so I'm going to have to adjust these folds a little bit to make sure that it's folded in the right place so I can fit it in there. This is going too far that way. I don't know. Something's weird about this. Okay, that fits. All right. All right, and that it's kind of like that. That isn't really how I expected it. For some reason I was expecting that there would be two boxes that fit evenly together. Am I missing something? Yes, we're missing the lid. So the final step is to put the lid, and then it'll all be contained in a thing about that thick. So let's get on to the lid, and then, then we'll get on to just like lining it with foil and stuff like that. Okay, so the lid, oh, it looks like our necklace is falling off. Let's just grab that. That's a little weird how that happened. Okay, set that aside. Okay, making a lid. Let's grab this one, and it's got to be bigger than all of it. So let me just, in fact, put all of this to the side. It needs to be, let's see, is it going to be, needs to be bigger than that one, and this, it basically has to be the same size as the bottom, right? I think so. So I'm going to use the big part of this, and it would be awfully nice if it could actually like be tall enough. So it'd be nice if you had a like much bigger one, so that you could, you see how that we like sandwiched in there like with about like 4 inches, and we only have like 1 inch, and it looks like we're gonna have about 1 inch on this side too. It would be nice if you had like 2 and 2 for your lids. So in the future, I would say when you're cutting the bottom off that, cut 2 inches off if you can afford it. If your box is tall enough, then cut 2 inches off the bottom. In this case, I'm going to use, let's see, I don't like that side. This side's a little bit neater. Now, I don't have enough long ways, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize this edge as for one of my edges, and then I'm just going to make an extra edge over here. And then it looks like I have a 1 inch there, 1 inch here. I could actually do this. Okay, yeah, you just got to be smart. Could actually do this. All right. Cut off. I can almost do it. It's not quite 2 inches. Let's just do this. This side. Cut up my poncho. Okay. That's one. That much on that side. That much on this side. Should be able to do this really quick. Straight. I'm just going to go call it straight enough. So these corners, if you're familiar with how boxes are, this is going to fold up, and then this little corner is going to like kind of fold in there, and that's what we're going to use to sort of seal it. Or it's the corner. It's basically the corner. Like in here. This part is obviously not as critical because it's just the lips, so some of the lips will be a little bit longer. Okay, that. Done. Done. And then what we're going to use is cut off this last one. Oh, I could have used this too. Thinking more on that. Okay, back here. So I get that last perforation over here. Do it that way. Right, flip it. Get the creases on the bottom. Again, all I'm doing is scoring it so to make it easy to fold. And then you're going to do a good job. Just fold it here. Here. There's one issue. If it's a little bit not quite straight, it's going to affect the seal at the top. Okay, so there. So this is going to be here, like that. This will actually be here. be some sealing that needs to be done. Nope, not there. So, there. In fact, this would be better to do it on the outside, so it doesn't affect, so that the inside wall can be uniform, or so that you don't have weird gaps. And at this point you want to tape. Glue could also be used. And actually stapling could be done. Come on. Okay, so you can see how that's going to go. I'm going to do this on the outside. So you can see how that works. So we're going to assume that. And then we also need now, did that just break? I think it did. It broke along the score line, so I'll have to tape that up. But I need now this. Okay, so this is my inside, and I want to need to make my window in here. So it's going to be right in the middle of this. So it's going to be like right there. So I'm just going to cut out the place for my window. Seems like it's a little uneven. Yeah, for whatever reason, this is a little bit oblique. It's not quite trapezoidal. It doesn't matter that much. It doesn't really matter that much. We're just going to need to make a... Oh, wait. Is this right? Okay, technically it's going to be a little bit smaller than this, but again, it doesn't matter. We're going to cover, it's going to be up on the top. And if you want to make it really neat, you want to make sure that you got it inside the inside box. In this case, there's going to be a little bit of overlap. You're going to be able to see the top of the inside box a little bit. And I don't care. But if you want to do that, then what you're going to have to do is set up the whole thing and then set it up and do all the folds and stuff and make sure you have exactly the inside of the box. And in this case, let's see. So what that means is going to be a little bit smaller than this. So you could actually just guess in that fashion. Okay, I don't like this messy thing. I'd like it at least a little bit neater than that. Quicker. I don't need to watch me doing this for too long. Come out yet? Oh, not quite yet. Very, very quick. It's about time to come out of there. Sloppy. But we're going to have a lid in just a moment. Let's put that over. Give me... I think I should just use duct tape rather than this. silly roll. Okay, outside. Yeah, that's the problem with you. First one. Oh, I lost it. Oh, come on. Okay, and then one more side. Where's the edge? Where's the edge? Okay, after this, there's just one more step, really. Well, okay, there's two more steps. Just got to attach the baking bag, as well as line the insides with foil. Both of those steps are sort of nothing to them. It's the collapsible part that's the trick. Okay, so there we get a top and baking bag. Just take it as is. And look, we could have made a much bigger oven, but it's good enough. And we'll just attach it to the inside of here. However, in fact, we could even just leave it like that. So, let's just assemble it all now. Putting it together. Okay, you're going to put foil all over the inside of this, along here, and basically every surface. Every surface. It can stand to have foil on it. You don't have to follow any kind of rule like, you know, put it on the inside surface or anything like that. Just put it everywhere. But definitely at least prioritize, if you have a limited amount, prioritize the inside surfaces. Down. Also, so this is an inside surface as well. You're going to line that with foil. That's all popping apart. I wish that I had a stapler hand. Do I even own a stapler? It's not something that you really need much of. Living in the wilderness, staplers. Okay, this needs to be taped up. Stick that down in there. Oops, I need my little X. There, and this, pick it up, that side. Ah, that's really annoying. So, glue in here as well as tape. You can figure that step out. And then this really could just be stuck on there like that. And then, oh come on, seriously? And then, let's stick the lid on. Pull that tight. Okay. It's a little bit tight, so it's really kind of wanting to explode, but you can see what we did. We now have a completed oven. Just pull that a little bit tighter. And once you got your all foil in this side there, it should work really well. There's so many double layers of insulation all the way around here. They work. It should be great. I'll just go through some of the standard stuff with, this is the main part that needs to be filled with, covered with foil. And you could do it all along, all the sides on the inside, even though you're going to double this up, and then this will need foil as well. If you leave it just a little bit slanted, then that'll actually be able to pick up a little bit more of angle, but it's not that much. The only thing with the foil is just make sure you read the directions with the spray adhesive. There is a tendency for it to come undone, so you're going to use double. You put some on there, some on the foil as well. We'll let them kind of dry to become tacky, and then put it on there. You can even try double layers. If the heavier foil you use, the better it's going to be. And the only other thing you're going to need is a reflector. So just any of the remaining pieces, or you could get a bigger piece. You could do that. And how you're going to hold it up at the right angle. Let's see, I'll just demonstrate it in use when I get to that, and then it will all be done and ready to use. And we'll just get to setting up the reflector and stuff like that. All right.